Bulletproof Radio, a state of high performance.
Hey, it's Dave Asprey with Bulletproof Radio. Today's cool fact of the day is that if you're feeling lonely, you might feel better by taking a hot bath or shower. Studies show that immersing yourself in hot water can be a substitute for emotional warmth. On the other hand, feeling cold physically can lead to you feeling lonely, which is why I like to be in my cryo chamber at least once a day at 270 degrees below zero. Because, well, after that, everything feels like I'm not lonely, right? But more seriously, the other way to have emotional warmth, other than being in a hot bath, is actually to be in a warm bed with another person and have some personal contact. So I highly recommend that if you don't have any hot water nearby. On the show today, you're going to hear a conversation that Brendon Burchard and I had at the 3rd Annual Bulletproof Biohacking Conference. Brendon was a keynote speaker at the event. He's been a previous guest on Bulletproof Radio, and he's a world-renowned personal development trainer. He's founder of High Performance Academy, where I'm going to be speaking this year. It's an event that's like no other for people who want to perform really well. He's host of the Charged Life podcast, and he wrote the #1 New York Times bestsellers, The Motivation Manifesto, The Charge, and The Millionaire Messenger. He's been ranked the #1 personal development show on YouTube, and you might have seen him, if you're a fan of Oprah anyway, when he taught Oprah's online O courses on the OWN network, which is a really, really big thing. After his keynote address, Brendon and I just sat down, like literally 5 minutes after, and we talked about his definition of high performance and the 5 qualities top performers have in common. It was interesting too that on the way to filming, we watched a car accident happen literally right next to us. So we're walking from backstage to where we're going to record this episode when we watched a Jeep run into a Prius. Needless to say, the Jeep was the one that won, but fortunately no one was seriously injured. We also talk about why he and I were the first 2 people on the scene, even though there were lots of other people standing on the sidewalk. But you can learn more about him at brendonburchard.com. Thanks for listening to Bulletproof Radio, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or YouTube. Just go in there and click on it. And while you're subscribing, I'd love it if you just said, hey, I really like this show, because every time you like the show, you help someone else find this kind of information. You are going to love this episode. I had a great time, and this is a personal, one-on-one conversation where we're sitting in the same room, so there's like a special energy to it. You'll love this episode. Watch it on YouTube if you can. Brendon, you just got off stage at the Bulletproof Conference. You had about 1,000 people in the audience, and you were talking about high performance and what it takes. And you run High Performance Academy, which is why you gave the opening keynote at the Bulletproof Conference.
Thanks for having me, man.
You're on Bulletproof Radio today to kind of give a recap of what you shared live with everyone. Mm-hmm. Just what do you do for high performance? You've been on the show before.
Yeah.
I love your work, and we're friends. I'm going to be speaking at your conference. You spoke at mine.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much you have to offer listeners. So I want to run down the main points of your presentation and just share this knowledge, because a lot more people are going to hear it at work or driving in their cars than heard it live just now.
True. Yeah, love to. First off, my opening point was high performance, or being bulletproof, isn't a luxury anymore.
Yeah.
It used to be like a nice to have, and like you and I were like these weird biohacker guys on the side, and we were teaching different we have different approaches to what we teach, but ultimately it's how do you optimize human performance? How do you optimize who you are, but not just at some intellectual hacker level, but in day-to-day life, your real health, your real productivity, your real ability to get things done, your ability to show up present and mindful and engage and energized, enthusiastic for your family or your team. These aren't like conceptual fun things that some geeks in the corner are doing. What it's become is a massive need to survive in the modern era. Before it was kind of a luxury and it was cool for people, but now everyone is so stressed, so overstretched, feeling so many obligations, but also excited about so many opportunities, but they keep sort of running out of gas. I like to say the emotional energy of the world is kind of flatlined a little bit.
Yeah.
Because people are not only eating bad, they're just thinking bad.
Yeah.
And their habits are bad. And I don't mean it in some negative judgmental way. It's just that most people have never had access to what is it the world's most extraordinary people are doing. And if we can figure out their strategies and their habits, break down the tools that they're using and give those to people, they'll hit bulletproof, they'll hit high performance. And so the start was really, this isn't a luxury anymore, guys. We got to get on this.
It's funny, if you look back at like ancient China there were these like family secrets for high performance.
Right.
There's martial arts lineages where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like these are the family secrets and we'll pass it down. But there was this kind of like, we're going to hide it. And you've done a lot of work on sort of shining light on things, saying, all right, what do these people actually do?
Yeah.
And when I started doing this, I was really surprised that so many really high performance people were so open about what they do.
Right.
Have you run across people who are like, I'm not going to tell you my secrets?
No, they're really open, and usually when I get to work with them, I've had different experiences. Like you obviously you work with a lot of them at performance level as well as interviewing with them, and most of mine's just been at that straight up performance level,
right,
under like NDAs, because these are Olympians, these are
right,
Fortune 50 CEOs, these are celebrities on covers of magazines, and they're like, I don't want people to know I'm struggling with this. That was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they're like, Brendon, don't tell anyone we're doing these things. It's going to give me an unfair, it's a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And now it's like they're constantly asking me, like, what's everyone else doing? Because everyone's looking for that little edge, that little push, that little magic thing. And so what I shared today on stage was basically, I've discovered that there's like 5 things that they just get right in their life. And because they master these 5 things, everything else goes along well for them. And so I started, the first thing I shared was clarity.
Okay, tell me about clarity.
They're unbelievably clear about 3 things. I didn't get to all of them on stage, but the first one is they're clear about who they intend to be. And I don't mean that in some conceptual airy-fairy way. It's like, no, actually, they've written on it before. They're like, these are the 3 traits of a person I want to be. I want to be, as present, or bold, or engaged, or I want to be charismatic. I want to be this. And they consistently think about who they are supposed to be and live into that intention each day. So it's not like I had a good day or a bad day. It's like, no, I know this day I'm going to be like this, especially athletes, right? It's like, this day I got to be in this mindset. I got to be like this to perform. But I now see that at high-level entrepreneurs, high-level executives. It's just that mindset of intentionality has become so popular, but they're actually doing it. The other clarity they have is how they want to interact with people.
Okay.
They have like cues and triggers in their mind. Like, I'll do door frame triggers with people or eyesight triggers with people, which means...
What's a door frame trigger?
A door frame trigger is you're going to walk into your boardroom. When you walk through that door, you trigger your mind on 3 words. Just intention cues. You say, okay, you walk in, you say, for example, you say, energized, listen more, and then give direction. Or whatever. Just
whatever your words are.
Whatever your words are, your phrases are, you just cue yourself. But it's every time you walk through that door, that's what you say. So I tell the people this: if you're going to go home to your sweetie, to your wife, your husband, when you walk in that door, say something to yourself every time, because that frames your ability to interact well. And then the last thing they're really clear about is what makes them successful. I love this one. I used to ask this, what makes you successful? And people used to really struggle. And now I think people are more contemplative because they listen to you, they listen to this new sort of era of open self-discovery, and they'll say, what makes me successful are these 5 things. And they're conscious of them, and they're constantly doing them. An athlete knows their routines, and they're going to, these 5 things, that makes, and it's not, I used to really have to dig and struggle to find it. Real high performers, they got them. They know them. So I tell everyone, just like sit down, describe who you want to be, set up intention cues for you to remind yourself to do that. I told the audience to put it in their phone.
Nice.
So as an alarm on my phone, 3 times a day, an alarm comes up and it says 3 words on it.
What are your 3 words?
Right now mine are present, enthusiastic, and bold.
I think you pulled that off.
Yeah, but I didn't used to. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
I actually didn't used to be bold. So I made that one of my words, and I put it in my alarm. I said,
was that like a Peter Diamandis influence?
No, this is like 7 years ago.
Oh, okay, long time. All right.
But I just wanted to be bold in who I was and how I was making my decisions, but not bold with other people. So what I tell people is, you might have 3 words to describe your ideal self, then 3 separate words to describe the interactions you want to have with people.
Okay.
And then 5 reminders of what makes you successful. Put that on a card or put it in your phone, put it on the mirror as a trigger. Know those, if you know those 3 things, you have clarity. Because most people think clarity is a big, esoteric conversation about life's purpose. I'm like, a lot of people don't know their ultimate life's purpose.
Most people don't.
And it would be a tremendous sense of ego to say you actually do know that. Because at a spiritual level, I'm not sure that we're ever going to discover that exactly, that this was our finite.
So you don't believe that there was a process or a path to determine like the reason you're here?
I would say reasons you're here.
Reasons. There's more than one. Okay.
That we
That's a
might
fair point.
consciously be able to choose. But our ultimate finite purpose, I don't know.
Because it may not be finite, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and so a lot of our work, I'm always just telling people in high performance, I say, okay, there's 7 main areas of your life. Have deep intentionality to optimize all levels of
Yes.
those, and maybe that's your purpose, or it will emerge from that, because purpose usually emerges from growth and momentum.
If you look at some of the more Eastern approaches, like the purpose is basically to approach enlightenment. And well, so whether or not you believe enlightenment is a possibility or an ultimate goal, if you're optimizing all of those 7 areas and continuously on a path, well, you're on a path towards something, and there's got to be a name for that. But when all of them are fully all the way optimized, I don't know the name for that, but that's where I'm headed.
Yeah, exactly. It's that old. There's also Eastern philosophy. Purpose only reveals itself to you when you're on your path.
Yeah.
And so maybe you could sit down and really think about it and come up with goals, come up with intention, come up with a vision even, and understand your value bedrock, your character, who you want to be. And then purpose might really emerge, because you just never know. I don't know if it's okay to share, but
Sure.
You and I are walking over to film this, record this, we see an accident.
Yeah, just a full-on
car
T-bone.
accident.
Yeah.
That could have forever altered that person's conceptualization of purpose. Just like my car accident, when I had a car accident, I was a 19-year-old kid, it forever altered my beliefs about myself, my mission, what I wanted in life. So those things can be changed. They can, when the kids leave the house, your purpose gets unsettled a little bit again. So it's okay. I always tell people, because there's a lot of guilt about people who don't feel like they know their ultimate grand perfect purpose.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, the universe is a big place.
Can't you find something better to feel guilty about anyway?
Yeah.
Like do something that was like a little scary and then feel guilty that you did or didn't do it or something, but to just sort of feel guilty about some esoteric kind of ephemeral thing.
Right.
But you're right, there is a sense of that for people, and it's tough to get out of that kind of guilt.
Yeah.
What do you?
And if it's not guilt,
Yeah.
it can be restlessness.
Even better.
They're just like, I feel like there's something more for me. And so what I always tell them, you're going to discover that more in improving all these areas of your life. Your health, your families, your friendship, your mission, your hobbies, your finances, and ultimately your spirituality or your consciousness. Those are the 7 areas.
Okay.
So I say just zero in on those, improve them the best you can, and the restlessness starts to go away because you're more intentional. The stress starts to go away because you optimize your health. And you're preaching to the choir here, the best guy on the planet about this stuff. And then it's also just about when you feel a momentum in many areas of your life, that clarity comes to you and you find not balance in external things, but balance of mind and body. So amid the chaos, you feel stronger and centered. And I was sharing that on stage as well.
So that covered clarity pretty well, pretty profound stuff actually. But you also talk about energy, which is a major part of where both of us, like that's why every time we hang out, we sort of geek out on like, how do you upgrade energy?
Yeah.
Right. So what did you share at the conference about energy?
I shared first and foremost, never fall into the victim mentality that believes that, I don't have any energy.
Oh yeah, it's always there, right?
It's also, my metaphor is the power plant doesn't have energy, it generates energy. Yeah. And that was the biggest breakthrough of my life. For me personally,
well said.
I was like, whoa, I don't have sadness because I was depressed. I don't have a negative thinking pattern. I don't have these things. I'm generating these. And I'm either generating them because I'm based on conditioning and just momentum in one direction or automatic thinking, or I'm going to generate them by will, by discipline, by intention, by mindfulness. And when I moved into that camp that was really focused on what energy do I want to feel each day, and being responsible for my space, for the energy I'm putting out through my mind, my body, my emotions, my facial expressions, my voice, my tone. And I said, I want to create positive energy in the world, and I want to experience that. How would I do it? So for me, it began at a very spiritual and physical level of just what energy am I outputting? And that actually brought me to a lot of your work and a lot of this conversation of now the next level of that, well, how do we get into physiology and really tweak our everything that we take and consume through our mouth, to optimize that, whether it's what I drink, what I eat, how I fuel through different sort of patterns that I'm involved in, whether I'm working out or having a rest day or I'm working very intellectually and writing. There's just different things, and you're so good at that, breaking down. I've always felt like all your products serve to optimize someone's brain, so they have what I think everyone really wants with energy, and that is presence and stamina.
It's kind of funny when you talk about how you don't have energy, you generate energy. Yeah, your mitochondria, these little things in your cells, are what generate energy.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff that I talk about just for the brain, well, it's just because you have more mitochondria in the brain than everywhere else. But when you do it up here in the brain, you get it throughout the body.
Right.
So there's stuff you can do for neurotransmitters and very specific, but the baseline generate more energy now, whether you use it to run or to think, like it's your energy, right?
Yeah, well, I have people stood up. What we did, we had your whole audience stand up. I said, close your eyes, don't move. Let's see if you can just use your mind to speed up how you feel. To speed up, could you just close your mind and make a decision to get more energy? Now, when I say it here, maybe people can recognize, but when you're in a room and you actually stand up and you just close your mind and say, you know what, I'm going to take my level from, I'm a level 2 energy, I want to go to level 10. Let me see if I can get 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 without even moving, without doing anything dramatic. And people are like, oh my gosh, I feel better.
Yeah.
Because they had this intention to generate more energy. And then we add breath, then we add movement.
Yes.
And all of that stacked on top of so much of what you teach, especially just getting the biology in your body figured out a little bit better, so that you have the fuel that whether you've got the fats, whether you've got the nutrition and supplementation, whether you've got the ability to maintain that physical energy as a base, then everything amplifies.
What if you have energy but not clarity?
I think you become a pretty irresponsible person.
Exactly. That's why clarity is important, right?
I think that's half the people in Vegas.
Totally, right?
I think it's like, and I think a lot of people do have that. And I think a lot of youth have that.
Very much, right?
I think a lot of times when we do irresponsible things, we have that. And there's no person who's listening or watching who hasn't had a moment where they're like, I can't believe I did that. And maybe they did have the energy to take the action, but later on they're like, gosh, that wasn't who I wanted to be. That wasn't how I wanted to interact with people, and that's not what makes me successful.
Yeah.
And then, so I think all these things in high performance, they all stack together, just like everything that you fuel or eat or teach, all of that just adds to the success that your students are having. And that's why I think your podcast just continues to grow, man.
That's the clarity plus energy. All right. And next up, you talk about courage. So what is the role of courage in high performance?
Everything.
Okay.
Because without courage, there's no real acceptance of challenge. And with no acceptance of challenge, there's no growth. And so it's that ability to say, courage isn't something you do. Courage is a willingness to do something. That makes sense?
Well, it's a willingness to fail in the way I think about it. Where like, okay, I'm going to do it and I might not succeed. Oh well, I'm still going to do it, right? That's the essence of courage. Whether it's saving someone's life or just trying something you're afraid of, it's like you might not get what you wanted, but you're willing to try.
I think it's a willingness to not even just fail, but that failure, even backing it up, it's a willingness to reach a new level of expression or application. And so expression is, I'm going to show people who I really am, and not in a metaphorical way. It's like, no, be more explicit with your spouse about what you want. Tell your team your big idea. Share what you really think and feel and need and desire and dream of with your friends and your family. Because a lot of people right now, they feel like people don't understand them. And so they blame other people. Well, they don't understand me. I say, well, you didn't have courage to be expressive, explicit, and consistent enough with that communication for them to get it. Because a lot of people say, well, I told her what I wanted. I'm like, when? Well, 1944. I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. It's like, it takes a lot of courage to be consistent in expressing who you are.
Yeah.
And people forget that all the time. Courage isn't some grand act. It is the act of expressing who we really are and pursuing or applying the values we really believe. You and I saw the car accident, I'm sure 20 other people did.
Yeah, really
you and I were the first ones walking into the street. And that isn't because, it's not we're courageous men, it's the application of something we believe in. And we're willing to do it when other people might have that same belief, but they don't apply it. And so courage comes in the application of expressing ourselves or following our values.
Right. At the same time, there's also some risk, right? You go to a car accident, you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea, is there legal liability? Is someone going to bleed all over the place? Like, are you going to basically like spend the rest of the day keeping, CPR? You have no idea. You go and you do, right? But it's a willingness to sort of set that aside and like, all right, I'm going to do what is in alignment with, my clarity, my purpose. And you help people and they need it.
Yeah, and stop, it's a challenge. And I know it sounds insensitive when I say it sometimes because, I'm talking to high performers, so we have this ability to do this because I know your audience preaches and loves this stuff as much as I do, but it's about stop avoiding the risk and start pursuing your values. Yeah. Period. It's like when you're on the path of your values or your mission or your true character ethic, who you decided I want to be, then you're going to take those actions. It's like people talk so much about risks. I'm like, it's not about mitigating them. It's just about realizing they don't need to hold so much on you. Because a lot of people are so focused on the negative or the concern that they're lacking the approach to what they could gain. It's like in fear. People don't really have fear. Fear is often over spoken about without specificity. Okay. Fear is really concern about pain in 3 areas. Loss pain. If I do that, I'm going to lose something. I'll lose status, prestige, my job, my office, the friends I like. Process pain, which is really hardship. It's like, if I try that, it's going to be hard. Yep. It's going to be outside my capability or my competency. I'm going to be uncomfortable or get hurt.
Yeah, fear of discomfort and pain.
Yep. And then the third one is outcome pain, which is a glorified phrase for kind of disappointment. Well, what if the grass isn't greener? And I went through all that. I did lose, I went through hardship, and I don't lose the weight, or I don't get the job, or she doesn't say yes. And so what we have to teach people is that's where the fear is coming from, those 3 things. So you got to take that loss and turn it towards the focus of, okay, be aware of that, but what's the gain? And are you as attached to that? What about that hardship? Well, what if that could be joyful? What if you could find flow in something in that? What if you could really access that thing that might be hard, but approach it as a challenge, as a joyful journey, honor the struggle versus hating it? And what if instead of, just envisioning the dire consequences of everything, you set up habits that allowed you over a period of time to ensure that you got what you wanted. So you did take control of what you could, and then be okay with the outcome of where it turns out. So just mentality that you have to teach people, because I don't actually think people are as fearful as they think they are. I think they haven't thought enough about their fears to overcome them.
It's, was it Winston Churchill, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And there is that sort of meta fear, which drives a lot of people. Yeah. Something happened last night. My daughter tore off like half of her thumbnail. She's 8, right? And kids at that age freak out. This is fear of pain. I mean, it's a real pain, but it's also, she was more freaking out about the pain. And then she looked at me, and I teach them body awareness, and she goes, "Daddy, I feel something right up here on my chest." And she's like, "It's right up here." And she was like pointing to where the fear of pain was manifesting in her body. Wow. And I was like, "Great job, Anna. You found where the pain is. You see that? That is, that's your body being afraid of it hurting." Right? And she was like, "Oh, it is." And just nice. It was the coolest thing to watch.
I love that.
And once she became aware that she was fearing the pain more than just feeling the pain,
that's right.
She stopped like wigging out and started being, "All right, I guess we'll cut the nail," and that sort of thing. But most of the time, like when I was a kid, no one ever taught me that, so I didn't understand that there was like a manifestation of fear in the body. Right. But just being aware of, okay, where am I feeling that right now? When you have that discomfort, I think it'd be really valuable.
Yeah, and what you did is you taught her not to run from it. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's there, honey.
Yeah. Good job finding it.
That's a huge thing. Most people, they're just running from the discomfort without ever looking at it. When I was a kid, I just brought this up because from your daughter, but when I was probably around her age, I remember being terrified at nighttime of just like the boogeyman or the bad guy in the closet kind of thing. And I remember one night specifically, I looked in the closet, it was dark, and there was a figure in the closet. And I was terrified. I literally was laying there, I was shaking, my physical body was shaking, and terrified. I had the covers up over my head as if the super blanket's gonna protect me from the murderer with the axe. Yeah. But I was just terrified, and I mean, it felt like hours, but it was probably only minutes. And I finally said, this is crazy. And I was in martial arts at the time as a little kid, and I was like, I gotta go fight this demon or something. And finally, I throw out the covers, I turn on the light to go and fight this thing, and of course, it's my baseball cap and my jacket, and I was like, oh my. But I always think that's fear. It's this big scary thing until you flip the light on, look at it for what it really is, and then you're like, that was it?
Yeah.
And I think you were teaching her that, so which is really cool.
That's all right. That's incredible. I love getting to interview you because you always come up with the coolest stuff. Dynamics of productivity, the next thing you talked about. What are the dynamics of productivity for high performers?
Yeah, the biggest breakthrough we had at High Performance Academy, this was tracking 1,700 people, was we can get you 30% more productive if you will just stop looking at your email in the first 60 minutes of the day. It is
Amen.
so basic, but I've literally, the people we've taught this to, their lives have changed because 60 minutes is a little bit arbitrary, but that was the study. And the reason, philosophically, it makes sense. Most people wake up, smartphone owners, 90% of them, upon waking, the first thing they do is grab their phone and check in their email and social media. 90% of smartphone users in North America do this.
That's nasty.
And so what you do is you're checking out of your life, you're checking into your inbox, and now you're entering a world of reaction. I said on stage that the inbox is nothing but a convenient organizing system of other people's agendas. And
That's
so
such a good quote.
you've stepped out of your life agenda into their life agenda, and now you're just automatically framing the day for reaction. So all day you're actually reacting without any vision, without any controlling of your life agenda. So I always tell people, get up, get some water, move and stretch, or if you do your workout. But if you don't work out, that's fine. Stretch for 15 minutes. This is part of the study. Stretch for 15 minutes, take 10 deep breaths, then sit down with a piece of paper, and we call it the one-page productivity guide. People can find it on the internet. One-page productivity guide. It just says, at the top, there's a row, and it says, list out your projects, and what major things would you have to do to move forward to those projects. Doesn't mean today, just means in general. Second row is your people row. Who do you need to reach out to today? And who are you waiting on for a decision from today?
Right.
And then bottom row is priorities. What must happen today?
Okay.
Just fill this out. And that's really all you're doing is you're just kind of journaling, but envisioning, well, oh yeah, what are the major things I'm working on in my life? Okay, right. It's grounding yourself back into your life. Who am I waiting on? And your first action when you do email is you sort it by who sent you emails, looking for it. Did Sally send me the proposal? She didn't. So the first email is email to Sally. Sally,
Okay.
still waiting on a proposal.
Right.
So now at the end of the day, you're never like, oh, I forgot I was supposed to do these things. I was supposed to send these emails to these people. You send them all in the morning. So now the day, anything else that comes in is just reaction.
Okay.
But in the morning, you use the inbox as what it's supposed to be, a tool for you to communicate, manage, and get ahead of your life. Everything else in there is people trying to do that against you or with you.
Right.
And you have to be attentive to that. And then I would say from there, it's all about having cues throughout the day to keep you on track and to build energy and endurance throughout the day. So I tell people every hour, on the hour, if I do it every 50 minutes, and so do our clients, but every hour at least, get up, move, take 10 deep breaths. Take a 1 to 4 minute break every hour. Even if you feel energized, you're like, no, I have so much energy. I'm like, still get up. Because the body needs to be open and replenished to have stamina at 4, 5, 6 p.m. Just as much as you know, if we're not getting the proteins and saturated fats early on enough in the day, you're going to bonk in the afternoon.
Yep.
Yep. So it's the same idea. The body needs movement, the mind needs to be closed, the breath needs activation. And if you're doing that every hour, I mean, I'm this annoying at 8 p.m., man.
Yeah, having that high energy is a different state. I didn't used to have it.
Yeah.
In fact, I had brain energy problems,
I remember.
like chronic fatigue stuff. And yeah, when you become aware of that and you don't let it dip throughout the day, and if you find it dipping, you do something, it's something high performance people are going to do, just like you had the audience do. Like crank up your energy. You can do it cognitively, and if you try it cognitively and it fails, okay, now it's biological, and then there are steps you can take there.
That's right. And most people just get it wrong. They try to replenish when they don't have the energy, and it's too late.
Yeah.
And that is why we have you moving on the hour and breathing on the hour. Even high level fortune guys, I tell you, look, it's just, even if it's 1 to 2 minutes, that could literally be standing, bouncing in place, closing your eyes, taking 10 deep breaths, getting some water or a great snack, sitting down, and keep going. That's all.
You know what I do that's super dorky? I have a Bulletproof Vibe right behind my standing desk. So I'll literally go and I'll stand on that for
is it the platform
seconds.
that shakes?
Yeah, we
Bulletproof Vibe.
manufacture it.
Yeah.
It's a whole body vibration thing.
Yeah, you sent me one. I got one at my event. I
Okay,
used
good,
it.
good. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, see, there
it's
you go. I didn't
backstage
notice
at my
it. Okay.
at last
Cool.
high performance
But
camp.
it like gets your energy going.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do like when I'm taking those little breaks.
Yeah.
And you can do it on a little trampoline. You can just jump up, down. You can shake your body. You can do whatever
Yeah.
feels good, right? Jump rope, like
Yep.
any of those things is going to do it. But you might look kind of stupid in your suit and tie at a Fortune 500 company jumping rope.
You know,
but
we have them go in a conference room without windows, or we have them go in the bathroom. And it's funny because I had one executive say, "So you want me to go in the bathroom? Stand and bounce in place and take 10 deep breaths," because that's going to be a little weird when people come in. I go, I don't care. I don't care about the impression. I care about the energy that you have to serve.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important. So if you add to the power play to the bulletproof vibration, is that what it's called?
Bulletproof vibe. It's
Vibe,
called,
I love that vibe. So if you add to the vibe, when you get off there, make sure you close your eyes, and then you take your natural bouncing rhythm and take 10 deep breaths that people could hear in another room, like
I like an ujjayi breath kind of thing, right?
through your nose, mouth closed.
Right.
You're going to be like, it's like a hit of cocaine because it's super oxygenation in the body. It activates everything that you and I both know and we need to know, from our lymph system to giving our neurological system a little bit more of what it needs, blood flow, oxygenation, and you'll feel it. It'll be another level.
Yeah, absolutely will. And this is the sort of things people go into the bathroom, they hide it. But we're talking about what high performance people do, and this is what they do. I do the same kind of thing. Like there's a breath I learned from the Art of Living Academy. I used to do the Art of Living breathing stuff every day, and there's some breaths that energize you. I think they even call it like the caffeine breath or something, right? And it's and you pull your arms down. You can't see this if you're just listening. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can see the exercise. But what you do is you put your arms above your head, almost like you're going to do a jumping jack, and then you bend your elbows and pull your elbows down to your rib cage while you're exhaling through the nose. And you do that really fast 3 or 4 times, and it like bam, it's this hit of energy. And if you're really cratering, like I used to in meetings, I'd be like, I'm just gonna run out real quick, and you go out into the bathroom and I'd like do that 3 or 4 times, like okay, get a glass of cold water and go back in, and like you can make it.
It's incredible. Your breath is dictating so much of your energy, and people lose sight of that all the time. But every high performer I know has breath work that they're doing.
Yeah.
From extreme crazy people, the Wim Hof method,
Yeah.
is just that intense deep breath held over a period of time, intense flooding of the breath and releasing not all of it out. So you almost get lightheaded.
It's funny you mentioned Wim Hof. He's making a cameo unscheduled appearance on Saturday. He's going to drop in during one of my keynotes.
This is why people need to come to Bulletproof. Really, it's just like we were walking over here, and 2 or 3 friends, or 4 or 5 people I've wanted to meet. You're like, oh, he's on stage, he's hanging out. It's
Bill Harris, Lewis Howes, like all kinds of cool people hanging out here, right?
Yeah, totally. I love it.
All right, we're coming up on the end of the show, and I'm trying to figure out what else. I think we covered all of the 5 things here, but
influence. We didn't cover influence.
Oh, influence. Really, let's talk about influence. Thank you. We got for it. Cover influence.
Yeah. I think a lot of people want to have that, and just like energy, you don't have it, you generate it.
What is influence? How do you define influence?
Well, that's interesting how I would define it. I define it as something that is achieved with another person when there is a high level of trust, but also direction of how that person thinks and feels and relates with you. And I think that comes from basically 2 things. It's real influence. I tell people all the time, think of someone who really influenced in your life. I guarantee you they did these 2 things. 1, they taught you how to think.
Yep. But
we're not conscious of what we're teaching people to think by our role modeling or by explicitly what we say. That's why podcasts are so amazing, because it's just teaching people how to think about things.
Right.
It's conversation, and in conversation, they're learning how to think. So if anyone said Bulletproof changed my life, it's because really we just taught them a new way to think. Or we help them access a different level of thinking for themselves. So first, be explicit. Tell your kids how they should think about school. Tell your teams how they should think about themselves, the company, the mission, the legacy, the competition, the economy.
Right.
Tell your spouse how you feel like you should be thinking about this stage of your marriage, this stage of your life. And if it's explicit and it comes out, then you're gonna have influence. If you're just implicit, hoping that people pick up on your hints, you'll never have the highest level of influence with them. And then the second thing that I guarantee that person did for you is they challenged you. Influence ultimately comes from challenge.
Right.
There's a different level of someone who influences you, they're asking you to engage your life, your relationships, your mission, your business differently where you push yourself a little better. It's that, kid, I think you can do better. When you get that from a parent, from a leader, from someone, it activates something in you. When it's shared in a caring, thoughtful, cheering on way, but honest, it makes you rise to another level. And I think that's where ultimate influence comes from.
When I think about it, I think of it as like the power to serve others effectively. And like you certainly have a ton of influence. You've reached millions of people, Brendon, and challenge them and push them forward. And I love the High Performance Academy stuff that you do, and just your overall even Experts Academy, where you're taking people who haven't even made the first step and they're doing it, which is admirable. So you've mastered that influence thing, I think, better than huge numbers of people. What are the 3 most influential books about this kind of stuff that you've read? Other than the ones you wrote. The Motivation Manifesto obviously would be on the list, but since you wrote it, it doesn't count.
Gosh, that's so true.
Neither does the Bulletproof Diet, in case you've read it.
I love handbooks from psychology on development of expert performance.
Okay.
So if you just type in, Handbook of Expert Performance, there's always a series of those that come from psychological departments, but also people who are studying true acquisition of expertise and skill. Yeah. So at that level, I'm an academic wonk. I love those handbooks. I would say in my personal practice, The Power of Now is really important to me, from Eckhart Tolle, because I already understood the concept and I already applied it, but that gave me more reason and more depth in it. And I think real high performance ultimately in whatever you're doing comes from that engagement with the presence. I love Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I think was really the quintessential original book. He didn't call it necessarily high performance, he called it optimal living. But Mihaly is an amazing psychological grandmaster, one of the founders of positive psychology with Marty Seligman. I would say those 3 books truly shaped me.
Awesome. I think I've read at least, I don't know the Handbook of Psychology, but the other 2 absolutely I've read. Yeah. But I'm interested in, or Handbook of Expert, you said?
Yeah, Handbook of Expert Development. Okay. Or the Development of Expertise. I can't remember which way it goes, but it comes out every 2 or 3 years.
We'll put it in the show notes, so I'll find it and make sure, and that way everyone who listens can find it. The whole transcript of this is online for you anyway, so it's easy.
And then today, just add globally anything you get on neuroscience.
Anything on neuroscience, amen.
Period. Anything out on neuroscience right now is just changing the game. So I think at a global level, that's my most intense reading in high performance. I know it is yours.
Absolutely, neuroscience matters. Half the speakers at the conference there are neuroscientists, right? Now, there's something else, that, speaking of high performance and all that stuff, you just told me when we sat down that you've got something going on with Oprah, which is totally badass. What's your deal with Oprah?
I got introduced to them over a year or so at the Oprah Winfrey Network, and I was just sharing some concepts of what we'd done in online courses. Right. And then dear friend Ariana Huffington launched a course with them, and I supported that, and in the process this conversation came, well, Brendon, we should do a course together. And we kicked it back and forth over a period of time, and finally it was like, yes, let's do a course where we help people find what is that next bold move for themselves. What is the difference between people who can create the future they want and those who can't? It has a lot to do with high performance. It has a lot to do with psychology and productivity and physiology and purpose and their people skills, but some people seem to be able to create the future they want, and other people struggle. So what would that be? So we created a 4-week online course, and it breaks it down from helping you in module 1 really develop clarity in these different areas of your life, to helping you make better decisions for yourself, your family, your mission, your dream, to how do you evaluate opportunities. We're all flooded with so many things, and part of the distraction is people just don't know where to go, so they don't know how to evaluate opportunities, to how do you gain real massive momentum every single day with your habits. So the course is called Your Next Bold Move. It's on Oprah.com. And I'm really thrilled about it because it's a lifelong dream and ambition to have met her. I met Oprah, and I'd actually shot and filmed the whole course by the time I met her. And talk about high performance, because you get the call. And I'd been traveling, I'd been working, and it's like, could you be over in New York in whatever it was, 48, 72 hours, after I've just finished 5 days on stage, and come and meet Oprah. And I thought, yeah, well, A, I'll get there, but then B, I thought, oh my gosh, I hope I have enough energy. And I stopped myself. Okay, I got 48 hours. What would I need to start doing right now to condition my energy so that when I went in there, I was in my best self, my best place. And if I didn't know the things that you teach, supply, espouse the same things.
The things that you know as well.
If I didn't know all the high performance habits, I would have been a total train wreck. But that's why I tell people to have these things. And I look like what you said about influence. It's the power to serve. High performance to me is so much of it's having the power to be your best self when life demands of it.
Yes.
And right now, life demands it all the time.
Yeah.
So we got to teach people how to access that. The course helps tremendously with that.
I would, from what you were saying, it sounds kind of like a mini version of what you teach at Experts Academy, which is a very high-end event.
High Performance Academy, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I said Experts. I meant High Performance Academy, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like I laugh about it because we were sitting there recording it. And my videographer's like, you usually teach that at your $1,000 level stuff, and I said, yeah, but one of the things I love about Oprah Winfrey Network is their desire to bring these concepts to the masses.
Yep.
Because it really, like I said, it's not a luxury anymore. This is a need to figure out, how do I optimize my life? But most importantly, I think everyone is looking to tomorrow these days, and they're a little skittish about it.
Yeah.
And they're worried about how it might be and what their tomorrow might be like. And again, I was like, no, you can generate your future. You don't have to just have this experience. Like, no, you could generate. Like, you could start doing habits and behaviors, use tools and strategies today to create an extraordinarily compelling and amazing tomorrow. You just need to know those things, and that's what I'm trying to reveal in our work, and I know you and I do this together on the podcast as well.
Awesome. I'm going to ask the team to put together a URL. I know Oprah tracks where good stuff comes from, so if you like this, track it. Bulletproof.com/Brendon or bulletproof.com/Oprah. They'll both go to the same place, just so you can find it quickly. So if you're at work or driving, you can type that in and it'll take you there. Brendon, I don't even know if we have some sort of affiliate thing set up on this. That's not why I'm doing that, just to let people find it. We'll work with that out afterwards. This is completely ad hoc. But it is cool, and if everyone listening goes to that URL, bulletproof.com/Brendon, and who knows, maybe I'll get to meet Oprah someday. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, people who are spreading great messages for other people, they get recognized. I've always seen it. I mean, my whole life. I mean, I feel like you and I have met because of that.
Oh, absolutely.
We met people who you and I both helped and served, and then they connected us. I really believe that. Like, deliver, support, promote great messages on whether it's when you finish this podcast today, send it to 5 people.
Yeah.
Just email your 5 best friends. Like, I like this session. Listen to it, because that all comes back to all of us. I really believe as we spread good things in the world, they come back.
Very, very well said, Brendon Burchard. Thanks for being on the show, man. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, great seeing you. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, this is Dave Asprey here at the Bulletproof Coffee Shop in Santa Monica, California. This is where many of the recipes for Bulletproof, the cookbook, were designed. The cookbook is based on the New York Times best-selling book, The Bulletproof Diet. When you eat this way, you have limitless energy, you don't have food cravings, you're not hungry, and you just feel amazing all the time. More willpower, and your pants are gonna be looser anyway. When you buy this book, I'm gonna give you a big discount on the book, free shipping, and a bunch of bonus content to teach you how to cook this way, so you just have that amazing sense of wellness all the time.